Well, as Kate mentioned, I've been kind of in this space for a long time, and one of the challenges is getting other people up to speed. We've been building tools for years, and we've been, Sonification Sandbox, and now the Sonification Studio, and Bobby Candy, who joined here, his group has built tools, and Robert Alexander, many groups have built sonification tools. Um, but we felt that beyond teaching people how to use the tool, there's sort of the bigger educational picture here, trying to give people a sense of design and sense of the research and evaluation that goes into creation, right? So along with Emily Moore and some fine folks at the FET Center in Colorado, um, we partnered with them, and Brianna Tomlinson, who was a PhD student in my group at the time, took the lead on developing a Coursera course. So this Coursera course is freely available through the Coursera platform. You can complete it. You get a credential, I believe, but moreover, you get a fairly broad background in what you need to know and think about going into sonification and sound design. Obviously, I'm not going to teach the course here, but what I thought I'd do is share my screen, share the web page for the Coursera course, and show you the modules that are in there, and just give you a bit more of a flavor for what's in there. And if I can remember how to do that, share. I am going to share my.
And don't forget to click sound if you have sound.
Yeah, I don't think there is in this particular thing, but I'll do that. And you should now see um, a web page. This is the Coursera web page that you can go to, Sound and Sonification Design for Interactive Learning Tools. Our mission and in the collaboration with the FET Center was about interactive learning and simulations and so on. So this is not going to cover any and everything related to sound and sonification, but it gives a good overview. So I'm going to scroll down to the modules section here, and oh, I guess you can enroll for free. I wish that would go away. I don't know how to make that go away. Click on modules. Well, anyway, there are 6 modules in this course. The first one covers the very basics of sound, and it might seem to the people on this call that, well, why would we cover what sound is? Well, it turns out that when you have an online course, a Coursera type course, you really never know who your enrollees, who the students will be. So you have to kind of start from the basics and scaffold everyone up. But we talk about sound and what it is, and what we hear and how we use sound. Many people are not really clear on, they don't have a good sense of how sound is actually part of our everyday life. We talk about things, different types of sound, and give people some vocabulary about differences between cautions and warnings and alerts and spear cons and spin decks and all of these terms that are in the field. We talk about things like mappings and so on. After we quickly get people up to speed in the concepts of sound, we talk about sound design, where we're really making the point that this is an intentional design activity, and we're not just playing beeps and bops and Foley sounds like you might get in a movie or some kind of video game, but rather this is a systematic mapping of information into sound, and treating it like a design process. After we go through that module, we talk about evaluation, and we think this is an important piece of any kind of sound design. You can't just make it up and say, ta-da, here it is, but rather you need to evaluate your sound and your sound design against your design goals. Why are you doing this, and what are you trying to create Are you helping teachers? Are you helping students? Are you helping scientists? And so we want to give people a sense of how you can evaluate these different tools. There are lots of methods looking at performance people may have, looking at their preferences and even their affective or emotional engagement with the sounds. So after we go through that, we talk about taking your design concepts and prototyping them. And this is at the conceptual level, right? We want to convey that design is an iterative process. So you want to make sketches and you want to make prototypes and you want to make more fleshed out prototypes. And finally, you make the final version of whatever it is that you are designing. That's true for a visual interface. It's true for any kind of system or device, and certainly applies to sound and sonification as well. We talk about some of the tools that are out there, whether it's programming, whether it's drag and drop, whether it's quick and dirty kinds of things. We have some examples in there. And then the last substantial module is really some best practices, talking about the guidelines and getting people up to speed, because it turns out that there have been people using sound forever, and there have been people using sound in a systematic way in sort of the sonification world for decades. So much is known, and we know what works and we know what doesn't work. That still gives lots of possibilities for creative expression within that space, but we do feel like we can tell people what's likely to work and what's likely to not work. So we also give the students in this Coursera course the opportunity to try it out and give them some hands-on experience. And then finally, the last module is kind of bringing it all together, sort of a review, some opportunities for brainstorming, planning and evaluating, and talking a little bit how you can incorporate sound and sonification into your teaching or your learning or design in general. So that's the overview of this particular course, and I'm going to, if I can figure out how to stop sharing. Was I even sharing? I think I was, right? Kate, were you seeing a web page or?
Yes, everything was shared.
Okay, because now I don't know how to unshare because it says to share.
Let me see if I have the power to do that.
You can unshare me.
Replace. I'm going to allow.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to go back to me.
All right. Well, in any case, that's the overview of. Okay, now it looks like I'm not sharing anymore. That's the overview of the sound and sonification design for interactive learning tools on Coursera. We found over the last few years, people have been using it to get up to speed. There are parts of it that are really evergreen in the sense of the design and the concepts and so on. There are parts that even despite our best efforts probably become dated a little bit, some of the tools and examples. But that's okay. There's always an evolution in these kinds of tools that are out there. All right, I'll pause there. If there are questions, happy to take any, or we can move on as people choose.
Okay, Adrian, you have taken the entire course. I've taken most of it, but tell us about your experience with that.
Yeah, sure. So a couple years ago when I first started to learn about sonification, and then at some point, I don't recall how I learned of the Coursera course, it seemed like it would be a good thing to try, and especially since it's free. So that's a great price point. And what was also great was that, like anything when you're learning, it's nice to have that sort of feedback. if I remember correctly, there might have been a community that was giving feedback that I was providing answers or comments, and I was getting feedback, but that may have been another course. It was very well paced, as Bruce explained. There's all the different segments, and then within each segment there were videos to do. There were homework assignments. I think that was where I was getting the feedback. So even though it's free, if you want to be eligible for the certificate at the end of the program, you do need to complete all the assignments, and you would get the sort of external reward of that little green check mark or whatever they use. So I think it's a minimal investment of time. It's a minimal investment of finances to do that. So I think if you have access to it, it's great. It did help me much better understand these concepts. Again, I'm coming at it as a musician, educator, STEAM educator, so I didn't have as much of the vocabulary and language from the audio engineer aspect. And while I understand the engineering design process, as Bruce said, it is all about the design process. So it gives you a great practical example of creating something and doing that iterative process through the end, and then going back over and over. The one thing that I think would have helped me, and I would recommend this for anybody that wants to try it out, is to provide yourself with the project that you want to be doing when you're done with the course. And that was one thing I didn't do. So as with any skill, when you sort of use it or lose it. So I wouldn't say I've lost what I learned in the course, because I've now been able to understand other sonifications much better in that way, because I understand the sonification, I understand the mapping process. But having any sort of hands-on, more projects to do right away. So I would assign that to yourself as something to do maybe over the next 6 weeks, and just keep yourself on the same schedule if you want to make sure you really embed the knowledge into your being, and then do that. And I would also recommend then seeking out other sonifications that then you could analyze yourself. And to the extent that many of the people in this conversation have their materials available online, including the sort of the backstory, I think that's helpful as well. Then you could go to their work and you could understand, oh, I see how they map this, because now I better understand it. So I think it's very great. It's a very robust program. It does come at it from the sciences, like chemistry, electronics sort of approach. And if that is not your forte, that could be a little off-putting to some, but I say just show up and you'll get a lot out of it, even if that's some of the examples are not from your particular discipline area.
And thank you for all of those kind words and that
Yeah.
feedback, Adrian. The FET Center is all about physics education and science education, which is why the examples that we included lean more into chemistry, physics, dynamics, but they're all intended to be at the middle school or high school level, so there's nothing particularly challenging for most learners.
Yeah, and the FET materials have been well used. In fact, their efforts to create a more accessible experiences on their simulations, that project was terminated by the federal government, and they are struggling again to find funding to continue what was an accessibility project. So, yeah, just thought I'd put that in there, but we love them. Amy, you had a question.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce, for that. I might have missed something at the beginning. This is an online course that one can take for free?
Yes, correct. It is through the Coursera platform.
Oh, I don't know that. Okay, all right.
Back in the day, there were edX and Coursera, and those were the sort of, you may recall the term MOOC, massively online open course or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So Coursera was one of the platforms, but in any case, it's an online course where there are little very brief videos and little work assignments and things that you enroll as a student in this course for free. You go through it at your own pace, and at the end of it, if you do some of the assignments, I think there's a credential.
Okay, and is it accessible to someone using a screen reader?
Well, so this was built 5 years ago before there were blind people. So uh,
Uh-huh.
uh, I believe it is. I believe it is. I I'm pretty sure that it's
It met with
thoroughly
at the
accessible.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What'd you
if
say,
I
Bruce?
remember correctly, I don't think anything in the course specifically talks about accessibility. It really focuses on the concept of what sonific, maybe I'm
Well,
forgetting that.
that's a good question too. That's not actually my specific question, is whether I, as a blind person, can take the course and be successful.
Yeah, and I
That's my,
believe that you can. There
yeah.
are videos, but the videos have captions for deaf.
Hmm.
Um, so there's
Hmm.
descriptions for pretty much everything. The Coursera platform is a compliant WCAG
Okay.
compliant web platform. So,
I see. All right. Well, we'll check it out.
but
Thanks.
if there's any drama, then you know where to find me.
Okay. Thank you.
That's good. Okay, thank you. And in fact, that brings up a question that I have that's a little off topic, but as long as it's here, one of the things I would like to go with next month's presentation is someone to give an overview of the new WCAG rules that are coming up. I believe that there's things that are now being put in place. There's like a deadline for meeting particular standards, and that's part of the thing that Brandon will be talking about. But I wanted to see, I have a call out to a couple people who've been on World Chat who I know have a background in this, but they haven't not gotten back to me yet. So if anyone has other WCAG geeks out there that I should be reaching out to get someone else to come in and give us an overview of that to go with Brandon's presentation next month, please Slack it to me, put it in the agenda, or put it in the chat. I'd be happy to follow up. Okay.
Can you put in the chat what you're mentioning? I'm not picking up on what that terminology is. Wick, wick
Yeah, I can do
something?
that during
Okay,
when Mary does her presentation. I'll get that in there.
okay.
Okay. All right.
WCAG is
Any other questions for Bruce?
Hearing none. I'll just say that WCAG is WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, that was produced by the W3C consortium. And it is kind of an evolving go-to standard that many governments point to as the required level of accessibility for web content. It's not all accessibility guidelines.
And I believe that there is we're passing some benchmark that is upping the ante in terms of image accessibility, which in my mind leaves an opening for us to insert new data sonification projects. But I am not as familiar with that as I would like to be. So I would like to see a speaker
Yeah,
talk to us.
I would suggest that Brandon is a great resource for that. In addition to the other things you may be arm twisting him to do.
Yes, I am already. He's got some really great. Yeah, we need to have all of our blind low vision people show up for the June presentation because he's got some map work that is knock your socks off.